one of our speakers has to get going here, so I'm going to move things around just a little bit. Speaking next will be retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Robert Spalding, who was previously the Director for Strategic Policy Planning at the National Security Council.
Thanks, Kyle. It's great to be here in this honored event. On August 14, 1941, Winston Churchill and Franklin Delano Roosevelt released a joint declaration known as the Atlantic Charter. The Atlantic Charter, all of one page, 8 paragraphs, provides a good template for the international order they sought to create after the end of World War II that they knew was rapidly approaching. It was really a document that had a blend of realism and idealism, with Churchill's notions of balance of power and FDR's Four Freedoms speech, which he gave in January of 1941 to the American people, in which he called for a world that gave the freedoms of speech, the freedom of religion, and the freedom from fear and the freedom from want. And the first two come from our U.S. Constitution, and the second two were a proposal that FDR had to create an international order that would promote democracy. After the end of World War II, this document became the template for that order. And what it proposed is that we would use the combined power of democracies working together to promote freedom. Then on March 5th, 1946, at Westminster College, in the middle of the United States, Churchill came to warn us of the vast Iron Curtain that had fallen between Szczecin in the Baltics and Trieste in the Adriatic. And what he was saying was the Soviet Union was vastly consuming Eastern Europe at the time into its totalitarian web. Today, a new digital and economic Iron Curtain has fallen over the newly globalized world. Using economics and information, the Chinese Communist Party seeks to spread totalitarianism not just from within its own borders, which they consider includes East Turkistan today and other oppressed areas, but right here into America. It threatens the international order. In fact, we saw just 2 weeks ago how 54 countries sided with the Chinese Communist Party on human rights over the democracies. I think the vote was 54 to 32. And if you look at the recent vote on the agricultural lead within the UN, again, a vote won by the Chinese. And so you wonder about the longevity of the Atlantic Charter and the future of democracy in an international order that is dominated by both the economics and information of the Chinese Communist Party. That dominance goes much farther than just the geography of East Turkestan. It's right in this room. How many venues here in Washington, D.C. would allow this assembly to occur on their premises in defiance of the Chinese Communist Party? Yet it doesn't stop there. How many in this room have been blocked on Twitter or other digital forums that are supposed to be promoting the ideals of the Atlantic Charter around the world? And so we see this vast iron digital curtain falling over not just China and East Turkestan, but everywhere. This digital iron curtain, like our supply chains that build the ultra-modern iPhone, shows that not only do the Chinese Communist Party have a physical hold on the people of East Turkestan, they have a digital and a financial hold on almost all of democracies everywhere. The greatest example of that recently has been the NBA controversy, where the Chinese Communist Party sought to have the NBA fire a general manager for supporting the freedom-loving people of Hong Kong, who were just trying to get the Chinese Communist Party to honor one country, two systems policy. I think everybody believed in 1997, when Hong Kong went back to China, that the Communist Party would eventually accede to democracy, that open markets would lead to wealth, and wealth would lead to democracy. Of course, that is clearly not going to happen. So it's a time for us to recognize the rise of totalitarianism in our midst, right here, today, in this very space. America is supposed to be a bastion of freedom. And along with other democracies, it's supposed to promote free speech, freedom of religion. And yet, today, our universities are bastions of censorship. America must amplify the voices crying for freedom, not just in places like Hong Kong, but also in East Turkestan.